and who has 2 Grammy Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and is the first rapper ever to have Kennedy Center honors. The GOAT himself, LL Cool J.
Pleasure, pleasure. Thanks for having me, Elisa.
Thanks for being here. You know, everyone knows you as a legendary artist, but not everybody knows about the success you've had as a businessman, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So I want to take it like way back to the beginning. You started your career when you were so young. Your first album came out when you were like 17, right?
Yeah. Single came out, I was 16, 17 for the album. Yeah.
So how did you navigate the business side of it as a young man who was still trying to establish himself as an artist?
You know, at that point, my grandfather used to have a saying, experience is a day of school, right? So at that point, it was really more about just following my intuition and letting my intuition guide me, and following my instincts, kind of like surviving in the wild, like eat that, don't eat that, go after that, don't go after that, drink that, don't drink that. That's kind of the way I had to learn, right? Like I had to really come up, hard scrabble. And then, as time progresses, if you stay curious and you continue to try to, learn, and as I still do to this day, every day I try to be better than I was yesterday. You just, through experience, start to learn your value. You start to discover what the priority should be, how you should prioritize things, and how you should just think about your life. And, entrepreneurship and business became one of my, an area of interest for me. You know what I'm saying? Because I wanted to really control my destiny. You know what I'm saying? And the rest is kind of history. I think, one of the first things that I did, to me, that was really exciting, was just the idea of just getting my catalog back, right? Like owning my whole catalog, owning Going Back to Cali and Mama Said Knock You Out and all these records, Rock the Bells, all these songs and stuff, these albums. That was a big deal for me, right? And that was at a time when not a lot of artists had done that or thought that way. So, and then from there, it kind of progressed. I expanded into television, first just as an actor, and then, realized that as an actor, I could actually have ownership in these actual properties in IP, right? So, as I moved into, various areas and went from being in, an actor for hire on a show like In the House to owning a piece of the format of Lip Sync Battle, or having a business interest in NCIS Los Angeles, not just, as an actor, right? So it was a growth, it's like a growth curve. Yeah.
You were there from the very beginning of Def Jam, which is one of the biggest business success stories of our generation. What did you pick up being around Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons as they were building what is now an empire?
Yeah, well, probably the biggest lesson I learned was never sell too early, no matter how much pressure is on you. Because at that time, I needed some capital to do something else with. And I sold a piece of my piece of the company very early and didn't really participate in the major success that came a little later in terms of the big windfall, right?
Hindsight.
So, yeah. It's 2020. Well, it used to be, right? We wanted to be better than that now. But 2019, right? So, but I learned, the importance of brand. I learned the importance of, these 3 words: it's your career, and how little things little things can be a big deal. You know what I'm saying? Those are some of the things that I really learned, because, and then the other thing you learned is just willpower, right? The indomitable power of the will, the human will, you know what I'm saying, to make it happen, to get through, the peaks and the valleys. You have to be able to survive success, failure, and success. Like, it's not just about, can you handle failure? It's like, can you handle success, right? So, yeah, I learned quite a lot.
Were there other people over the years that you modeled yourself after when it came to business, or that you considered business mentors?
Well, it's interesting. You kind of have to, as you're going forward, you have to like look for mentors and look for people. And, I just read a lot. Like, I would read books, about John D. Rockefeller Sr. or Andrew Carnegie, or, the Hershey's, Milton Hershey, or maybe, the DuPont family, or, the Heinz, or, books about, just those kinds of biographies just to have an understanding of business and, you know, Sam Walton and the Walton family, just an idea of, just to get an idea of how people put their minds around building something that's bigger than themselves. You know what I'm saying? And it teaches you humility, right? Like you can't get into this on some, you know, like just like extra arrogant with it. Like you realize like how much humility, but confidence is required to take it to the next level. And so, you know, for me, that's, you know, those have been the people that I really looked at. And now obviously they are current life examples of people that I think are, you know, impressive. Magic has done a great job. There are a lot of other entrepreneurs that I think have done great jobs, but I really look to a lot of those titans, you know, for inspiration. You know what I mean?
You've been very intentional about learning about business. 3 years ago, you went to a little known place called Harvard
Yeah.
and went through their business of entertainment, media, and sports program. What
Mhm.
was behind that decision, and what did you take away from it?
You got to just know you don't know things, right? Like I want to learn. I just want to be around smart people. I want to be in a classroom where it's collaborative, where people have ideas, where, you know, a professor is, giving us case studies and giving me new ways to think about things, you know, think about things vertically, think about things horizontally, you know, you don't want to make a decision in a vacuum, make a decision in a bubble. You want to learn as much as you possibly can. And that, you know, to me, like I have to do that. That's the only way I'm going to be able to be successful, right? I have a purpose. I have a goal. I wake up every single day thinking about it. I know what I want. I know what I'm trying to get, but you also got to put the fuel inside the engine, right? You got to grab that wisdom. And, you know, that's the fuel. You need that information and you need the ability to discern accurately and the information in front of you as well and identify those patterns. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you got to go to school for that. You know, it's like, it's one thing to play by ear. It's another thing to read music. And so, you know, for me, that was the equivalent of learning to read music, you know, by sitting in front of a professor, conductor, and being taught, you know, step by step how certain companies were built, some of the strategies involved. And I think it's been helpful, right? Because, you know, I look at what we're doing with classic hip hop now and how just the simple statement, classic hip hop. Before I started Rock the Bells and before I really went hard, everybody was calling it old school hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Not as many people call it that anymore. Some do every now and then, but it's classic hip hop. We have changed the narrative, right? So being able to change the narrative, being able to build a brand at that level where you can literally shift culture, those are the things you got to learn to do. So school, you know what I mean?
Over the years, you've had a lot of different ventures. You had a fashion line, you had your own record label, you have a tech platform that you created
Mm-hmm.
for artists called Boom Dizzle. Being an entrepreneur is risky, and you are
Yeah.
already having plenty of success as an artist,
Yeah.
both in music and in film and television. Why did you decide you also wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Well, because I just have visions, right? And a lot of things you do are going to fail. It's just like music. It's just like TV. I've had pilots that have failed. I've had businesses that I tried to build that just didn't work out the way I wanted to. I wanted them to. But then I've had things that just have done really well, right? And you know, that was the thing for me to just. I just feel like you want to die empty. You want to maximize your potential. You're on this planet Earth to get it all out of you. I don't want to be sitting there at the end wishing I would have, or I would have tried something, but I was afraid, or I was intimidated by, maybe I would look dumb to some people if it didn't go right, or if it went. I can't worry about that. Like, I want to get out there and just express everything that's in my soul. And part of what's in my soul is building a business, but it has to be a business that I'm passionate about, that I care about, and that I truly understand. And that's where, Rock the Bells comes in. And that's why I went down this path.
So that's a perfect segue to Rock the Bells. It started 2 years ago as a radio station on Sirius XM, but it has now expanded into its own platform with what you call the three pillars: content, commerce, and community, all around classic hip hop, as you say. Tell me about the idea for Rock the Bells. Is it something that hit you like a light bulb moment? Is it something you were mulling around in your head for a while?
Mm-hmm. Well, what it is that, you know, in doing the station, you know, and I got the station. It took me about 5 years to actually get the station. It took me a long time to convince Scott Greenstein and, you know, the team at Sirius that, you know, I could take this channel and go to another level with it. But once I got the station, now we're at about 7 million listeners daily, up from a couple of million. And the thing that I realized is that, you know, classic hip hop fans, they have nowhere to go. You know, everybody, you know, and whether they're older millennials, whether they're Generation X, they have nowhere to go. People just completely have kind of written them off, so to speak. And so you have this whole community of fans that, you know, that love Nas and love Eric B. and Rakim and love Public Enemy and love, you know, LL and love the first Snoop Dogg album and love A Tribe Called Quest and Q-Tip, and, you know, like, we got this whole world and this whole culture, and everybody has forgotten about them, right? Like, everybody's like, oh, Travis Scott, oh, this artist, that artist, and there's nothing wrong with them. Like, I appreciate the Baby, Travis Scott, all of those guys. I respect them, Drake, all of them. But at the same time, people kind of had like forgotten that this generation exists. And I said, you know what? There's an opportunity here. I said, you know, we can create content that speaks to this community. We understand what kind of content they love. We understand what they want to see, what they want to experience. From a content side, we know how to put together the commerce that are things that they're going to be able to relate to, things that they're going to feel good wearing, things that are going to bring back sometimes nostalgia and sometimes the most current vibes, depending, and experiential, right? Like, we know how to put together the Rock the Bells Festival the right way and put together the Rock the Bells Convention the right way. So I just decided that I want to build a platform that is dedicated and committed to people that love classic hip hop culture, not just rap music, but the culture as a whole, whether it be an MCing, DJing, which spawned off different industries, rap records, and then DJing with festivals and parties and clubs, whether it's you know, Basquiat, Banksy, or Shepard Ferry, or Phase 2, the graffiti artist, or whether it's Crazy Legs or what Mr. Wave, you know what I mean? So I just, that was the goal, you know, take those 4 elements and then take that element of knowledge and build a platform that's for our culture. And that's what I've done.
What was the process like from idea to reality? Because I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck.
Yeah, well, what I did was, you know, the first thing I did was go to somebody who was really, really smart and really experienced in business, and told them what I was trying to do and what I was trying to accomplish. And they ultimately connected me with a guy. I went to a guy named Glenn Hutchins, and he introduced me to Jeff Yang. Jeff is my partner in it. Jeff is one of the founders of Red Point. And, you know, Jeff and I, you know, we whiteboarded for a few months just to make sure we were on the same page, to see, you know, he needed to understand that this wasn't a vanity play for me. This wasn't the celebrity who's going to be on the phone the whole time and not really paying attention and all of that. And I just wanted to see what was what. And we took that. Then we had somebody do some market analysis just to make sure that what I was feeling intuitively, just to see if the data reinforced what I was thinking intuitively. And, you know, and you got to be careful with data, right? Because you can see what you want to see. So we were really, really rigorous in how we approached looking at the data. And then, you know, I said, yo, it felt right to us. So, you know, we both at that point wrote, you know, some checks to invest in the company, you know, and get, you know, hired a team to kind of get it up and running. And then from there, you know, we took it to the next level. We did a seed round and raised some more money, brought in some more investors who could not only help financially, but could strategically help us think about the business. And then we went from there. And now we're at the point where we're at, you know, a Series A, you know, round of, you know, funding. And, you know, the company is, you know, doing well and outperform. We've surpassed a lot of the things that we thought we'd be able to do. So, you know, but look, it's still a long way to go. It's nothing to be, you know, cocky about. It's just about like continuing on this journey. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how we got to this point.
I want to break down each of those steps because, you know, I want to start with how you went about building the team. You've said before that as a CEO, you're not the micromanaging type, which
Yeah.
means it's even more important that you have the right people in place. So how did
Yeah.
you go about building that team that made it happen and keeps it going?
All right. So what you got to understand when you're building a team is that, first of all, it's table stakes that they have skill sets that apply to the job that you're hiring for, right? But then there's also the cultural nuance, right? We're talking about classic hip hop. So for me to bring somebody in who's straight out of Harvard but is in love with country music doesn't really make sense, right? So they have to understand the culture and have the, you know, the skill set to deliver on the job. You know, then it's about experience, and it's also about energy and chemistry in the room, right? Like, you want to make sure that you have people that there's harmony and there's a harmony, like people that wake up on the right side of the bed most mornings. You know what I'm saying? So you know, everybody's human, but you know, you want a certain level of just camaraderie and chemistry. And then beyond that, it's really about holding people accountable, making sure that they have a clear plan, clearly defined plan, so that they know what they're trying to accomplish. And, you know, once you have those clearly defined plans in place, then you hold people accountable to, you know, whatever the metrics are that you set, whatever key performance indicators, whatever KPIs, whatever thing you set, measurements you set for success. You let the team know this is what success looks like for you in your role, et cetera. And then the other thing that I'm big on is just cross-functional participation, which, you know, look, I don't care whoever it is, if it's you know, you can be the baker or the candlestick maker, but if you have an idea, I want to hear it. You know, don't assume that your idea is invalid because that's not your area of responsibility. Let me worry about that.
Be the judge of that.
Let me be the judge of that, because, you know, I don't believe in having a team where people have this hyper territorial kind of view of, you know, the workplace. And you know, in COVID, you know, with everything that's going on right now, it's even more important for that harmony to be there, because we're not all in the same room, right? So if you're super territorial, I may not overhear you talking to Bob about X. So you really got to communicate with me and let me know what's going on, and we got to share ideas. You see what I'm saying? So that's kind of the way I approach it. And then we got to deliver. We got to go get it. You know what I mean?
You mentioned your strategic investors. You have some high profile investors like Henry Louis Gates, Bozoma St. John, Mark Cuban, a number of VCs. And I know that this isn't the first time you've pulled together a group of investors, but for most entrepreneurs, it's a very intimidating process, and there's a learning curve to it. So do you have any insights you can share about pitching to investors?
Yeah, I think you really gotta, you know what your idea is and your concept is, and it really has to be bulletproof in your spirit, right? You gotta really, really know what it is and be passionate about it. I would also say you have to be willing and open to collaborate with people, and to hear people out. And then beyond that, you're gonna have to figure out a way to make sure you got some skin in the game too. People need to know that you're in it. Like, I know, look, I'm not delusional. Everybody doesn't have, you know, a rap career or a TV career where they can go and get their own money to write that first check, right? But you got to have the tenacity though, and the never quit spirit to go after it. And because people do respond to that, it may take, you know, 500 doors or 1,000 doors, because you don't have the ability to say, oh, I'm going to put $250,000 up. You put $250,000 up. Let's just kind of feel it out. And then let's put up another quarter. You know, you may not have that, but you know what? If you have the tenacity and you have the wherewithal, and if you really believe in your idea, and if you really go hard, and if you don't quit, and if you really understand the market, and if you really do your best to be as close as you can to the right rooms, as close as you can, because I know everybody's not connected on the same level, but if you just try as hard as you can to be as close as you can to the right rooms, and you don't give up, it'll happen for you. It'll happen for you. It'll happen for you. You'll get that break. It'll be that one person that'll say, you know what, okay, let's try it. It'll be that one person. but you can't get frustrated and quit. I remember, look, prime example of that, I remember when I first started, in rap music, I was sending demos out everywhere, and at that time, I was sending a demo to Sugar Hill and all these different people, and I would get these letters back. Oh, we're sorry to inform you. When you get the letter with the unfortunately in it, it's like, oh, that unfortunately letter is just ugly, right? So, at that time, it happened to be my mother. The timing worked out. She got a tax return, and her tax return came in, and she took that tax return and she bought me a little bit of equipment. She bought me a drum machine, right? And she bet on me in that moment, and that's paid dividends from there on out because I was ready to quit. So what I'm saying is, it may not be a mother, it may be a guy down the block, it may be a coworker, it may be somebody from school, but you gotta just get out there and let people know what you're trying to do. You'll be surprised. You can do it. You can do it.
The other part of the platform I want to talk about is commerce. I interviewed Tika Sumter earlier this year about her new platform for moms. And she was saying that before she got hooked up with her business partner, she really just wanted to put out content. And she was like, if it weren't for my business partner, I would just have a blog. I wouldn't even really have a business. And
her business partner is Ty, right?
Yes. Her business partner
Ty.
is Ty. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the commerce part of it is so important. And especially this year, nobody could have foreseen how the coronavirus was going to impact us this year. But it has made buying things online essential. And so anyone with an e-commerce platform seems like a visionary. Mm-hmm. You guys have what is more than just a shop for, artist merchandise, but really a curated collection, and you highlight Black-owned businesses. Tell me about the approach behind the marketplace.
Well, the approach is pretty simple. I wanted to, first of all, I wanted to just make sure that every single product spoke to the classic hip hop community, right? Like, I didn't want to have and it wasn't going to be random, and it wasn't going to be just some superstore with LL just throwing a bunch of stuff up here and just whatever happens. It's really curated, right? Everything is associated with our culture, speaks to our culture, and has some connection to our culture, whether it's the books, whether it's a pair of Jordans, whether it's some kicks, whether it's a jean jacket, whether it's a pair of earrings, right? It all coincides, and it all goes through that filter of classic hip hop. And then, beyond that, it's really about now, it's just a matter of us just growing traffic, getting people used to the idea that they can go to Rock the Bells. If you go to Rock the Bells, you will find anything that's associated, or many things that are associated with classic hip hop. So it's just a matter of growing that traffic and just building it, turning it ultimately into a really robust commerce platform. But, that will take time because people, it takes time for people to just get up and say, okay, I'm going to rockthebells.com for something. Right now, people will go, they might check out some editorials, they may check out some other content, but that's over time, it'll develop into a really robust commerce platform where people can find all the things that they love associated with classic hip hop culture.
Let's talk about ownership for a while because, so often, and you've made this point a lot, we're the creators of the culture, but we don't own the culture. And right. You did two things here that I think are really, really important. The first is that you made sure this was a Black-owned business.
Definitely.
And the second is that you gave ownership. And I want to underline that because this was a choice that you made. It didn't have to be that way. But You felt that the pioneers of hip hop, the people who created it, people like Salt and Pepa and Run DMC and Eric B, Big Daddy Kane, so many others, that they should have ownership stake in this company. Yeah. Why?
Well, a few reasons. One, I feel like our culture always celebrated, often duplicated, a lot of times appropriated. But we, in general, it doesn't seem like we always get the maximum benefit from the things that we contribute to the world when it comes to our culture. So I said, you know what? For some of the people that are involved, they've had some big liquidity events, right? But for others, this is an opportunity for them to be a part of something as it grows that will build value for future generations, and they earned it. They deserved it. Look, you know, the bottom line is this: I could have absolutely did this and just called on my friends and asked them to do things. I didn't have to do it this way. But you know, it just felt like the right thing to do. You know, I remember, Sam Walton's wife was talking to Sam Walton, and he was like trying to, you know, figure out the turnover and figure out what was going on. And she said, why don't you, you know, give the employees some shares and stuff like that. And that wasn't quite this, because this is beyond that. They're cultural icons, right? But the spirit of it, the sentiment at that time, you know, obviously things have changed in terms of the dynamics with employees there, et cetera. I don't want to get into that. But the sentiment was like, yo, give people a piece of something. Let them have ownership. Let them be a part of this. Why not go to Eric? Why not go to Big Daddy Kane, Roxanne Shante? It feels really good for me to know that, like, Roxanne Shante is in, you know, she's making 6 figures now. You know, like that's a beautiful thing for me to know that I was able to do that with her. Like, you know, people grow to those levels. So it just really was about just making sure that we look out for us and look out for our culture. And mind you, when I talk about classic hip hop, look, there are a lot of people on the right side of history, right? So it's not about trying to demonize any group. It's not trying to demonize white people and demonize because there are a lot of people that are on the right side of history. But what is important is for us to care about our community and be willing to pay it forward a little bit and share a bit. So that kind of was the premise behind, you know, me doing that. And then guess what? The flip side of that is now we have all of this access and all of this reach and even that much more influence within our community, right? We could touch more people. We can go towards more socials. We can do things that, you know, that will happen later that haven't been done yet. So it just works right. It just felt right to me to do it. You know?
I say this with a little bit of trepidation, because Black business is not a fad, but Black business is definitely having a moment right now. Never in the time that I've covered it have I seen the words Black-owned business trending on Google before, like they have this year, or seen roundups in so many mainstream media publications about Black businesses to support. So many grants funded by major corporations, you know, specifically for Black businesses. But it's also a part of the outgrowth from Black Lives Matter and all of the tragedies that got us there. So, you know I feel a little bit conflicted about it. How do you feel as the head of a Black-owned business about this moment that we're in?
I think that we should take full advantage of this, because it's the right thing to do for our people. And it's the right thing. Look, America will be better, you know, with more successful Black-owned businesses. It's not only solely about the Black community. If you want America to be stronger as a whole, you can't have a leaky boards in your boat. Like, one leaky board is a problem. So you have to take care of the entire country, all of the citizenry, right? Everybody. So I feel like, yes, look, I did a Black Lives Matter freestyle. I wish more people understood that what Black Lives Matter means is Black Lives Matter too. Like, if they would have just put TOO at the end, I think everybody would understand it. You know what I mean? Black Lives Matter too. But I will say that I feel like we should absolutely be out here sitting at the table and trying to do things that are going to connect the dots. There are huge corporations out here that want to talk to our community, that want to have a conversation with us, that want to embrace us, that want to support our businesses. There are many people watching. They have products. They want to support them, but they don't know how to get to them. And yes, so we should take full advantage of this moment. I say it's more important than ever. Like, Breonna Taylor and George Floyd should not have died in vain. There should at least be, if this is an inflection point, then you want to walk away. You want to take advantage of an inflection point and grow from it and get something positive out of an inflection point, right? So that's what we're doing. And I don't think that any Black businesses should feel uncomfortable with that idea. I think that, opportunism is neutral. It's whether you're negative or positive. Like this, it's not negative. It's not negative, like ruthless, opportunistic behavior. It's about being opportunistic in the best sense of the word. Like, yeah, it's an opportunity. Let's do something with this. Let's build a company. Let's build something for the community. Let's make the community better. That's what it's about. I want to see, I get tired of, like, when restaurants come back, like in my neighborhood, it'd be like 50 different soul food restaurants at one location, over the course of like 3 years. It's like, oh, another one, like, and you go in there and they're happy and they're excited and then they're out of business. I get tired of that. So we need to learn more about business. We need to embrace what's going on. We need to connect with the community, with the community at large, and really, have our place, and look, it's both sides, right? Like Tyler said, you build your own table, but guess what? You can build your own table, but you still gonna want to eat with somebody else once in a while, and they ain't always gonna sit at your table. So, it's all right to build your table and then go sit at some other tables as well. You know what I mean?
All right, before we let you go, I just want to, get into your general business philosophy. Your autobiography, which came out more than 20 years ago now, which is like crazy, but it was called I Make My Own Rules.
No doubt.
What are the business rules that you have made for yourself?
I treat people the way I want to be treated. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I do it. I'm on time, I'm punctual, and I don't get into anything that I don't understand. I know what I'm talking about. I may not be the most knowledgeable in a given area, but I know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? I
know what you mean. On that note, I have to thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today, sharing the wisdom from a 35-year career and as a serial entrepreneur. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Much love.